Good morning. Another glorious day. Beautiful sunshine. I know a lot of yins are now getting snow and real winter weather and stuff. And yeah, we're in the cold, but I've not seen snow here in Texas yet. And I've been here 4 years. Doesn't mean I won't. Doesn't mean I won't. I had experience with ice last year. It wasn't snow, it was ice. So, yeah, we have our winters too. But for all of you who's got snow now, don't want to say I envy you, but I do miss snow. I'm sure a lot of hens would love to give it to me. Who knows, you might be able to. Biological feedback. The Ray Down Workshop Techniques of Food Consumption involve a threefold learning process. First, you understand hunger. Second, you recognize fullness and begin to stop at that point. Third, you develop this ability to sense what your body is really calling for. To begin developing this ability to sense what your body is calling for, ask yourself, what do I really want to eat? Thin eaters try to get what they want, within reason. Some of you have no idea. This response is not unusual at first. Realize that you may have been dieting for years, perhaps even back to your childhood. Think about it. As a child, you ate what your mother cooked for you. Then you went to school and ate what the cooks prepared. As you got older, you started dieting and ate what the latest piece of paper told you to eat. Have you ever in your entire life picked what you wanted to eat? Well, no wonder you do not know how to do it. Let me help you decide. Just ask yourself, what really sounds good right now? Okay, so you cannot believe that you really want a grilled cheese sandwich and it is only 8:30 in the morning. Do not worry about it. If that is what you really want, get it, enjoy it, and feel no guilt. Pay attention, however. Your body may only want half of a sandwich. Remember that it is the tendency of every new Ray Down Workshop participant to gravitate toward foods and food categories that they have deprived themselves for years. Again, what foods do the diets deny you the most? Sweets and fats, right? So do not be afraid if that is the category you want right now. Fats are the nutrients needed for the integrity of your cells and mucosal lining, and the health of your hair, etc. You may be needing fats. Let yourself have those foods so that you will not feel deprived. Soon you will want a wider variety. But remember up here she also said, when you have had too much of one category of food, you will naturally desire to eat from another category. So, having too much of one food can actually end up going against you. And she has said that. But what if I know I am hungry and nothing sounds good? Or if I still cannot figure out what to eat? If nothing sounds good, then you could wait a little longer until something does sound good. You might not really be that hungry right now, or you can try to narrow down the field a little. Ask yourself about some general categories at first. Do I want something hot or cold? Do I want something salty or sweet? Do I want something crunchy or creamy? These questions will put you in the general ballpark of some of the food categories to choose from. Some days your cravings will be very specific. For example, a hamburger sure sounds good right now. Within reason, be obedient to what your body is calling for. Say, for instance, that I have narrowed it down to lasagna. I go to the kitchen, but the lasagna is in the freezer, and it would take such a long time to thaw and cook it. So I start looking for something else. At this point, any kind of meat and cheese sounds good, but I'm basically too lazy to fool with it. This is when my eye spots the bag of chips in the pantry. It is not meat, but Raydown Workshop did say I could eat anything I wanted, right? So I get the bag of chips and start to eat. For some reason, they do not taste as good as I thought they would, but that is okay. I begin to feel full, so I put back the bag. I know I've had enough because I can feel the volume of food in my stomach, and I can tell that my blood sugar has gone back up. But I still want something. Do you see what has happened here? I was not obedient to what my body was calling for, so as soon as I finished eating, my body was still crying out for the protein in the meat that I didn't give it. That is why dieting will not work. Did you notice the point that the chips did not taste as good as usual? That point is important because it is a clue to you either that you are not really hungry or chips are not the food your body wants right now. Trust your taste buds to guide you in your choices. When you have a plate of food in front of you and you have tasted everything, the items that taste the best are the ones your body needs. The next meal, you desire different foods. Why? Because your body does not want what it had for breakfast. Variety is what your body needs. Actually, variety is what it calls for, even within a single meal, much less over a 3-day period. But right here in the example that she gave about desiring a certain type of food and then deciding that any kind of meat and cheese would do, but she just settles with chips. And because it wasn't what she was needing, it wasn't what her body was asking for, she was still crying out for what she really needed. And she says, I was not obedient to what my body was calling for, so as soon as I finished eating, my body was still crying out for the protein in the meat I didn't give it. And very plainly she says, that is why dieting will not work. And I have found that out for myself personally. It doesn't work like that. Because if I'm desiring a certain thing, if I'm needing a certain thing, but what diet I have chosen to try to go with says that I can't even have that, then later on down the road, even though maybe for a day or two I obeyed what that diet says, further down the road I find myself eating and binging on what I had been asking for. So yeah, diets don't work because they restrict you from this and that. And the body needs a good variety to stay well balanced. She says it right here. So don't kick me. She says it. God has made you to prefer something new rather than leftovers for 3 days in a row. What fun. What a genius he is. The older I get, the more I believe that you would be hard-pressed to make a big mistake in any selection of foods. Do not be legalistic with choices. Good health is more related to when you eat and how much you eat than what you eat. Since most meal selections are so similar in chemical and nutrient content, keep it simple. Now she italicized when, how, much, and what. She italicized those. So let's say that again. The older I get, the more I believe that you would be hard-pressed to make a big mistake in any selection of foods. Do not be legalistic with choices. Good health is more related to when you eat and how much you eat than what you eat. Since most meal selections are so similar in chemical and nutrient content. She had given you a breakdown of the chemicals and nutrients in specific foods a couple pages back. So yeah, the foods that these diet companies are restricting you from, they've got the same basic breakdown as the foods that they allow. It's just according to when you eat it and how much of it. I'd once heard someone say that they're Italian and they grew up on spaghettis and lasagnas, and that's the reason why they'd gained weight. Well, I'm sure that if you ate a whole lot, even if you wasn't hungry at the time, that you would gain weight. I know I would. So, more than likely it didn't have anything to do with the fact that they ate the pastas, but just the fact that they was probably eating more than likely like on the time frame that their parents ate, and possible that she wasn't hungry all the time or something, they weren't hungry all the time and they still ate it, and probably ate and didn't realize that they was full and continued eating. And maybe it was the rule that you had to eat everything off your plate. I'm not saying that's the case. For me, my mother made me eat everything on my plate. So that had set me up in the long run to gain weight, because even after I left home with Mom, I felt I had to eat everything on the plate. And from an early age, the foods that I enjoyed the most, I had learned to eat more of, because the foods that Mom was giving me, I didn't necessarily like everything, so I was kind of making up for it. And so I found myself overeating, eating seconds and eating to being too full and everything. And so I ended up developing a really bad habit even into my adult years because of it. And it took a long time for me to break that bad habit and start letting go of foods when I'm not hungry anymore. It took a real long time to get that voice out of my head that I had to eat every single bite. A long, long time. And so, yeah, it's possible that's what happened to this Italian person. But I'm not saying that is the case. I'm saying that's very much possible. Now we're going into phase 2. Seeing the passion. Now I am aware that sounds a lot like emotional religion, but reason with me for a minute. There are many people out there who say that God does not want emotional religion, and there are others who say they are burnt out in life. These people supposedly do not have this kind of emotion to give God, so they could not give it even if they wanted to. Wrong. God made our hearts, and you do have one. In fact, we all have the same size heart, and we all have 100% of a heart. But some people have given pieces of their heart to other things. These pieces of their heart are so scattered about that they do not have the energy to be passionate about any single thing. Many people have idols in their lives and are not even aware of what they are giving their devotion and energy to. There is only one way to find out if something is an idol in your life. Let it be taken away. Then, if you really mourn for it, your heart has been given over to an idol. For example, if God took away your food, how would you react? It could be that you have the same diagnosis as these people that Paul wrote about in Philippians 3:18-19. For as I have often told you before, and now say again, even with tears, many live as enemies of the cross of Christ. Their destiny is destruction, their God is their stomach, and their glory is in their shame. Their mind is on earthly things. There is nothing wrong with any of these things listed below. It is your heart. God raised the motives of the heart. Okay, now it continues on, so I'm wanting to hold on to that spot. But she had placed two profiles, And this is what she's listed as the heart being given to. 100% the heart being given. Worship of careers, promotions, money, power. Worship of sports and hobbies. Worship of food, other substance abuse or sensual indulgence. Worship of social climbing to gain status, others' approval. Worship of academic pursuits, love of controlling others. Worship of community and church, responsibilities for praise. So, there's all kinds of things that we can give our heart to. But what are we truly giving our heart to? Is it Jesus Christ, or is it the things of this world? If you worship something else, you will feel drained, lethargic, worn out, and emotionless. You will not have energy to love your spouse, children, or friends. You will feel empty because you never get what you are after. God will not let your false god give you what you are looking for. None of them will fill you up. However, if you throw yourself into worshiping God, then He will guide you to do things. This will not be draining, but rewarding. The externals may look the same, but the product and the fruit produced by your activities will be very different. One you directed, one He directed. Your energy level will rise. Your joy will be great. People have put their hearts into football and basketball, computers and cars, clothes and social climbing, chocolate and desserts, children and careers. Name it and it can be an idol. You may still argue that you do not feel all that emotional toward anything, but think with me again. If I were to lock you up in a room that had no refrigerator or pantry in it, you might start off asking politely for some food. A while later, you would ask a little more forcefully. As time goes on, you might resort to begging and bribing. Eventually, you would be threatening, yelling, and screaming at me to let you out or to bring some food in. Some people might even kill for food. Don't tell me you have it broken in a buffet line or jumped out of the car to get ahead of the next group of people going into the same restaurant. Well, I haven't, but I'm not saying others haven't. Or others, I haven't done that myself. So you tell me, is that kind of person emotional about their food? Is that passion or what? I have known of grown men who stole money from their children's piggy banks in order to sneak away and feed their own obsessive greed for food. She's known some, huh? We may have chosen to devote our heart to food, but another way, we have a crush on food. Food is our stronghold. We have given our heart to food. I have sat in church on a Sunday evening and watched people listlessly drag themselves through the motions of their worship. These are the same people who will put on one blue shoe and one white one, wave a blue and white pom-pom, and apply blue and white paint on their faces to root for their favorite college teams. They jump up after the worship service, a sad name for what took place, and rush to basketball games. They may know the name of every player and every statistic, and once at the game, they scream, yell, and jump up and down for the players. But can these same people tell you much about the heavenly team or any of its star players, Jesus, Abraham, and David? So we do have a heart, and we do know how to worship something. It may just be misplaced. If you have a crush on God and think it may go away and be replaced by a more mature, emotionless love, think again. Your love for food grows more and more. Statistics show us that people in developed countries are getting larger and larger and more passionate for their food. Likewise, my love for God has grown more and more. I can't get Him out of my heart and mind. It is passion, and that is how God wants it. It is either growing for one and departing from the other, or vice versa. No one can serve two masters, Matthew 6:24. Why? Because you only have one heart. It is made to be devoted. It will not be devoted to two things. It cannot be. It is not possible. I'm going to give you a small example of that. I love playing video games, especially on the tablet. I've got a few games that I greatly enjoy on the tablet. And, well, it was to the point I would play these games all day long. Literally just sitting on my can, playing these games all day long, hardly being attentive. And even some years back, even when I had done the Ray Down before, this right here just tells you how very little love, how very little I had devoted myself to God compared to. Because, as I said, I loved God, and I've been a Christian since I was 12. But I had my mind on other things. So even some years ago, I played games on the computer. Or I was on this one weight loss site, and I would be on it all day long, concentrating on how many points I could get for the day and stuff. I mean, I was really into that. And so now the games that's on the tablet, the more I focus on my Father, the more I trust on my Father, the more I lean on Father, the less I want to do anything with those games that's on the tablet. I can go on ahead and put the games on, and I'll play with them for just a little while, you know. I'll play with them up to a point, but then I start getting bored with them. I no longer have that love for those games, because my devotion is more to Father, which means that because I'm giving less attention to those games and I'm not so into them anymore, I'm even having more time and love for my own husband. And that right there is a great feeling, to be even more into my husband than before. Because the closer you get to Father, the more love that you also feel for your own spouse. And a pastor of mine, when I lived in Kentucky, my pastor had said pretty well the same thing. He said, the more I love God, the more I love my wife. And that is true. The more I devote myself to God, the more I focus on Him, the more I trust Him, the more I love Him, the more I love my husband. The more time I'm giving my husband, the more I want my husband. And those games on the tablet, even though they're still fun, and I'll still get on them. Every day I at least get on one of them. But I'm very easily bored with them now. So, yeah. And that's a cool feeling. That's not something bad to feel. That's not a bad feeling at all, to be able to let go of something of this world because you're falling more into God. It's actually a great liberating feeling. And I love being liberated from things that more or less keep me bound or keep me from being attentive in something that I seriously need to be attentive about. So, yeah, I love it. It's a great feeling. So, that's pretty well all that I've got for today. I love you guys. I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day.